Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Speed Tips by Bob and Chad. I think it's episode number 112, maybe. I didn't actually get that memo, but I think that's what it is. So we're excited to see you guys again and talk with you guys again and look forward to it. Our next show is going to be November 4th. And so we'll look forward to that. Um, how's things going at Weir's Machine?
Good. Yeah, we had a busy Monday today, sorting through the madness, and the boys had the factory support rig up to Ogilvy for the topless nationals. That went pretty good. They got to interact with a bunch of our northern customers, so that was awesome. Today we're grinding through the catalog, trying to get the catalog
Mm.
so that we can have that ready to go for the dome race in December. So got a lot of new products we've been working on. Most of them we've released, but some of them we've saved for the catalog. So pretty exciting next couple of weeks when we get that thing in our hands and start thinking about 2025.
I can't say that I envy anybody that has to build a catalog. I remember those good old days. Wow, that is a lot of work. I mean, people have no idea how much work goes into one of them. It's just amazing. But you
Yeah,
got to have it. I mean, like in your world.
I think so. I mean, we get as we get bigger and we print more, and it costs a lot of money to do it. But I'm still I'm still kind of old school. I like to, it's like you get that new magazine or that new catalog, and you're excited to see it and see what's new. And so as long as we can still afford to, I think we'll just keep on printing it.
Well, I know it's probably a generational thing, but like Austin, he looks everything pretty much up on your website.
Yeah,
I think I've only been to your website maybe 3 times in this year. I
yeah,
look everything up in the catalog that's usually right beside my desk. So I look forward to the catalog.
yeah,
Last year's cover was cool because it was from the Super Nationals. That was pretty neat. And so, yeah, I always look forward to that.
yeah.
Well, we
There's a
had a good weekend down here in Iowa. I mean, the weather was just freaking awesome all weekend. I did a lot of stuff, getting the motorhome ready to go for um, storage and kind of getting some of that stuff done. So I look forward to that, getting that in the storage shed and getting that stuff done. Problem is, of course, I know when I get that stuff in the storage shed, that means that cold weather is coming pretty soon. But the weather, like for this weekend, still looks pretty decent. So I've been pretty pleased. But Park Jefferson out there in Sioux City, they had an excellent show. Very good show. It was good racing. Makokada had a good show this weekend. Very good racing. Of course, I watched both of them on IMCA TV, but awesome job. And the weather, like I said, the weather was so good that it was cool. So, what do you got next? Do you guys, the dome probably the next thing for you?
Yeah, I think we're done till the dome. We talked about possibly going to the Turkey Bowl in Missouri, but the guys think they're done for a while. So I think we'll start prepping for St. Louis. That's a big event for us. We
Yes.
we set up in the garage area there, and then we also have a booth up in the concourse. So we're kind of keeping a new product under our hat for there too. It's not even going to be a catalog item. We're looking to debut something strange for the company and a new product that we've been working on for a couple years, and we're finally going to get enough time to get it done here. So we're excited to lead into that also that we're going to unveil at the dome. So that's a big event. Take a bunch of our guys down there, and we see so many racers that come from all over. Not just people racing, but the grandstands is full of racers. So that's we've chosen since 2019 to go to that. Well, we were going to that NPRI, so we chose to keep going to that just because it's more of the Saturday night crowd. That's what we like, and
Right.
the PRI. Nothing against PRI, obviously, great trade show. Built this brand, got the distributorship and whatever, but the dome race is just unbelievable.
Well, the dome race is more selective to your actual customers.
Yeah, for sure.
Where the PRI show, like you said, it's a great show, but it's kind of a performance trade show all the way around. So drag type guys and car guys and just kind of all that good stuff. Um, well, it's that time of the year where a lot of the racers, this is probably going to be their last weekend and stuff, and I can't stress enough that. Boy, now is the time of the year to get your car scheduled. Call your chassis builder and get your car scheduled to whatever maintenance you need to have done. I know we have some stuff in there. We've actually done a couple bodies, and we've got some cars that are basically ready to go for next year already that we've done. And that helps the racer out a lot because it gets done in a timely fashion. And it helps the chassis builders out a lot because I know back when we were actually a chassis builder, we kind of like to have a lot of the repairs in the fall because once we started production on cars, we always did production on 5 cars at a time. So you didn't want to skip that. So it's very important that this is a good time, to get your stuff done. I know, Bobby put out a promotion I think it was just actually today, about doing some shock rebuilds at a 15% discount on labor and for the month of November. And so there's all kinds of those type of things that, if you can possibly put it together to do, it's a huge time to save some money and get your stuff in and get it done. So,
Yeah, we had a great call today about off-season stuff, and you can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that this guy's from the north, so he was wondering if his Ultra Force machine was okay to store in the trailer in the off-season. And basically it is. There's nothing in there that's going to freeze. The only thing I told him is when it frosts up and then it melts, that's going to rust the unplayed
sure.
steel components in the machine. So there's a lot of things, depending on the part of the country you live in, whether you're in the south or the north, that like when you're in the north, you got to get all your tires in and in the basement. You can talk a little bit about the shocks. That's a big thing.
Yeah, that's another huge thing. I mean, the shocks need to be stored in an environmentally controlled environment where it's at least 40, 45 degrees. Especially the old style twin tube shocks, it wasn't a real big deal because all they had was a gas bag in them. But all the new stuff has an actual gas cell in there. Well, that gas cell with that separating piston has a rubber O-ring. Well, what happens to rubber when it gets super cold? It shrinks. Well, then all of a sudden the gas bleeds into the shock. So your shock that was perfectly good, but just because it was frozen, now it has to be rebuilt. And we've seen that happen numerous times on numerous occasions. And so I can't, that in our next few episodes, that's what we're going to start talking about is off-season maintenance and that type of thing, because it's now's the time. I mean, there's so much stuff that needs to be done, and you don't have to worry about racing on Friday night. So you got time to get stuff done and get real organized and get your parts ordered so you have the parts in time, and it just works really well. Okay, we've got some questions here. Jeffrey says, top of the evening, gentlemen. To you, same to you, Jeffrey. Thanks for logging on. We appreciate you coming on the show. Rusty, Chad, I thought of this today and haven't had time to look. Do you take anything to make it easier to measure center to center distance on shock mounts with the load stick in use?
So we do have what we call our dual stick, which has a load and link. So it has a potentiometer with it. So it has little hex pieces that go over the shock bolts on each end, and then the potentiometer goes up and down with it and tells you the center to center. In a perfect world, that works really good. Sometimes you'll get a car that'll be built and you'll have a shock mount that's one way and this bolt's going the other way, and sometimes it's a little difficult. But for most of the time on a car where it's modified and you have just a shock, most of the chassis builders tried to build them shock bolts the same direction. So that dual stick with length and load works pretty good for that situation. Outside of that, it's kind of difficult to get around some of the assemblies to measure. But when you're using the load stick referencing, we did now put a tab on every one that goes out, and you can get that tab separate if you want to update. But we put a tab on the bottom heim, so you measure from that tab up to one of the flats on the load cell, and that gives you a real good reference spot to measure if you can't get on the center to centers of the bolts real easy. So it's about consistency in how you do it. So as long as you're measuring and you're accurate every time, I think that's the key.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. Um, Philip says, thanks for everything, Chad. I think we're going to be at the Dome this year and to watch.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be great.
That's where Philip and I met. We rolled into the Sugar Fire Barbecue, which I can't wait to have again. And Philip was in line with us, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's got to be on my bucket list, going to that Dome. I've always heard so many great things about it, and I haven't really actually ventured down there to actually see it. I've watched it, but I've not seen it in person. It's just kind of like going to the Daytona 500. I mean, you can watch it on TV and it's great, but it has nothing to do with when you're out there in person. I mean, it's just a whole different world. Jared, Bob, thanks for your team's help. Talked to the guys Friday. We made some adjustments to my Camaro to be legal at other places, and the car was still right in bar when it was before, when we could have Guffey length uppers, now same length. Awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad that worked out for you, Jared. That's kind of what those guys, man, I can't say enough about the group of guys that I have, and actually a lot of my other employees that I've had over the years. They all have had the desire to. They're racers, so they've always had the desire to help other racers, and it's just our goal. And we say that. I mean, we make you fast, you make us look good. So that's what's most important to us is you guys winning races. John, on a three link, what is the point in the right front chain other than tying down the right front? How do you even set it up correctly? Well, Sean, I mean, evidently, if you can do that on a three-link car, you're not running IMCA because, of course, it would be it's illegal to tie the right front down. We used to, before they made clearer rules, we would actually make the shock shaft shorter by spacing it apart, and so we kind of come up against the shock to kind of tie it down. What we were actually doing was we were always trying to get about an inch of travel and not let it get more than that. It seemed like when we could keep it on the right front, you're automatically keeping angle in your left rear bar. Well, angle in your left rear bar is going to create traction, which is most important, along with the fact that it creates steer and helps the car rotate through the middle of the corner a whole lot better. So when we legally, or if you could do it, that's the main thing to do it. And you might want to try different, I'd put that chain system that Chad has, or that chain system that we have that we use on the left front, so you could adjust it quarter inch at a time, because there's a lot to be gained there. It definitely keeping that right front down is definitely a good thing.
You missed a couple there, Bob.
I did.
Yeah, you missed Jared, his first one there.
There we go. Jared, Chad, anyway, to get a spring cup for a hobby stock adjuster ring for used cars that use 5.5 springs, the All-Star one only works for a 5-inch spring. and are held to seat tight on the 5.5 inch spring. Well, I would believe that to be the case.
Mhm.
So he's wanting to know if there's any way to get one. I guess I don't even know what that All-Star one is.
Yeah, I think it's an ID grab, I believe. We could potentially make a ring, to adapt to that All-Star one. We've had conversations about making that adjuster, but obviously All-Star makes one, so there's really no reason for us to do it. But we could make an adapter ring, probably pretty easy to go to the 5.5. So if you could measure that diameter, because I don't have one of them here, measure that diameter and give me or Billy a call, and we can maybe fire up the Etch-a-Sketch and get something done there to align that better.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Josh, thanks for continuing to do this, guys. Much appreciated. Well, we appreciate that, Josh. Um, and I think your car went to powder coat today. So I think your car's next on the list, but I'm not. I know it's next on the list of new cars, but I don't know if there's any repairs in between there. I forgot to ask. The guys don't write that stuff on the board anymore. I used to always just walk by the board and see what was up. Now I forget to ask them. Let's see here. Brady. 3-link B mod. Are you guys still scaling the car with a 200-pound left rear spring? If so, when you preload the 100-pound spring to put it in, do you measure 2 inches of preload when it's out of the car and when it's in the car on the chain? We actually scale it now with that 100-pound spring in there. Sometimes we tend to go, yeah, we always follow that measurement too, to try to get the measurement and the scaling number to kind of get close. I know we definitely had to increase what we normally run for bite doing it that way, but it seems like it's more consistent doing it that way than going through the work of doing it with a 200-pound spring and taking it out. That's how I used to do it. That's how we used to do it, but it just kind of got to the point where it was cumbersome and just easier to just do it this way. Terry, both of your companies make great products. Thank you. Well, we appreciate that, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, that's our goal, man. I mean, like I tell my employees, and they all know that when somebody spends something with us, they're asking for the best, and we're going to give them the best, which is the same vision that Chad's got.
Yeah, we got a poster here.
Awesome.
Rule number 1, don't be number 2.
Yeah. And my thing is I don't want no complaint calls, because by the time they get to me, odds of when I get back to you, my humor's not going to be as good.
We just had a meeting about this last week too. My ears turn red when I'm angry.
Yeah.
Now the joke is to keep Chad's ears from turning red.
And you would be surprised on how much stuff gets fixed before it ever sees me anymore. So they definitely know how that works. Scott, gonna be cool to see Iceman Alex Williamson race there. Awesome. Jason, Chad, do you market your trick blind accessories for ice fishing? They would work in a clubhouse, I suppose.
No, fishing hub. Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
When we developed that the hub line shelf there, we were focusing mainly on the turkey blinds, and then actually the guy that works at the place that built the mold, Mitch, is the one that kind of said, hey, what about the ice hubs? Well, they have a different diameter rod in them than all the hunting blinds do. They're a little bit heavier duty, so we made an adjustment to the product to adapt to all the ice fishing hubs. So we are getting ready to market the ice fishing side of it because it's getting to be that time of the year. So they will work in all the hub lines for the ice fishing too.
Cool. How's the hunting line and all that stuff? Because we're coming up on that time of the year. How's that going?
Been going pretty good. You know, it's a brand new company, brand new line, some innovative products that are original in the hunting industry that nobody has made before. So we're excited about kind of doing the same thing we do with the racing products. You know, trying to be innovative, try to have cool products and stuff that's made here with a little better quality instead of across the water. So. Obviously my boys got me back into it, and I've been, using some products and haven't been real happy with it. So, but it's going good. It's a massive market and it takes a lot of money to get into it. And so we've been just trying to grow it, organically with our, kind of collabing with Wehrs machines. So it's been exciting. It's been fun. You get really criticized by the general population, that are all about cheap, 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 cheap. So, but it's fun. It's interesting.
Well, you got two excellent test guys there, and then you got one guy that works for you that's a pretty good test guy too. Or at least one that I'm aware of, anyway.
It's amazing how much the racing and the hunting go together.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, they really do. I know my son-in-law's been out doing a little hunting. I haven't actually talked to him about it because that's not something that I actually do. So I really don't know how that's been going. Jared wants to know if you make different length arms now got to use same length. What? Do you understand what Jared said there?
Well, he was talking about uppers.
Oh,
The uppers have to be the same length. Is that what he's saying? I think.
I'm thinking that's what he says. Yeah.
Length uppers, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Got to have the same length upper control arms. I think is what he means.
Yeah, I think you're right. Do you make much stuff for upper control arm stuff?
No, too many options there.
Yeah.
Can I get an 8? Can I get an 8 and an 1/8? No. Can I get an 8 and a quarter and an 8 and 3/4? No. I can't even imagine like Joel. How many upper control arms he's got.
Well, and you see, like when I look at all these pictures, I mean, it doesn't matter what brand of car you got. They got close upper A-frames on them, so they must build a ton of them. I know that's where our stuff comes from. Randy, I would definitely give Joel a call at Close Racing Supply out there in Pennsylvania. He builds a lot of upper A-frames for a lot of different chassis builders, and he would be the guy that would know all there is to know about the upper A-frame thing. Jared, yes, I'd grab the 3-inch tall bucket, or there's a flat buckets. Yes, I'll measure it and call you tomorrow. Awesome.
Cool. You missed a couple, or Jamie.
I did.
They're shuffling quick on us.
Oh, yeah. Who did I miss?
Jamie Andreessen.
Oh, Chad, do you make a lower the lower mount for the stock controller or for stock cars? Do you make lower trailer arms for stock cars?
No, we don't. We usually, like Berger builds his own. Most of the chassis builders are building their own clamp-on mount for the stock cars. We did make some components for one of the builders, but he's welding them up himself. So I don't really foresee us making one. The chassis builders are doing a good job having their own original thing, and it lets them fabricate a part that they can sell and make money and keep their guys employed. So we really don't have any desire to get into that market.
Well, I really don't know how big that market is because I mean, like the IMCA market, you have to use a stock arm down there. I know that
they're talking about the clamp bracket on the rear end.
Oh, the clamp bracket on the rear end.
Not the arm, yeah.
Oh, not the arm.
The rear end bracket.
I might have to start wearing my reading glasses again.
I think you make a bracket, right? Do you make a clamp on for stock?
We make a clamp on bracket.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one would be
Randy.
Randy. Optimal slider mount location from the hub face on a 2-link Wasota Midwest Modified. Currently 13 inches in on the right rear and 14 inches in on the left rear. Top of the sliders are 10 degrees tipped in. I like the idea of the 10 degrees tipped in. Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't have that number in the top of my head, but I was thinking that we were actually further out. Um, I kind of tend to like them being a little bit further out because I think you can get by with a little softer suspension, which helps traction off the corner. And when you get pretty far away from that hub face, then you have to go stiffer springs, and I just don't think that they're quite as consistent. Um, that's just my feelings. I mean, I was thinking that our right rear was like 10 inches, but you better let me check on that, uh, Randy, because I actually, yeah, we've got a car in there that actually it's a Wasota car that's in there right now, and it's a GRT Wasota car. So if you actually called tomorrow and talk to Brandon, he could definitely give you the exact measurements because he could measure that car that's in the shop. Um, yeah, they got a big race this weekend at Marshalltown, so I'm actually looking forward to going to the races one more time. Friday and Saturday, and that's going to be the extent of it. Of course, depends on how Friday goes. Maybe Friday might be the extent of it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But the weather looks good, so I'm probably going to gamble going over there. It's only 45 minutes, and they're going to have a ton of cars. I mean, it's going to be a great show, and it will be on Flow TV. So if those of you are far away that can't come and watch it in person, definitely will be a good enough show, because I don't think there's anybody else racing that I'm aware of. Um, Brad, 3-link Sport Mud Crate. First trip to Marshalltown this week. Runs mostly flat, semi-bank tracks in northeast Wisconsin and got a decent balance now. What would you suggest to expect to change or plan for the higher bank track? Um, to be honest with you, Brad, I would come there with the setup that you normally run. Um, Maybe plan to have a couple different right rear spring combinations, but other than that, our standard package works there pretty well and works at the other racetracks a lot. And it just kind of depends on the driver feel. But one thing that sometimes depending on the track condition itself, we might stiffen or soften the right rear spring. But that's the only spring I ever change. Just do your adjustments. We run a little bit more right rear trailing arm angle there so that the car just has more steer in it. Um, that racetrack, turns 1 and 2 kind of tend to be middle to the bottom. Turns 3 and 4 kind of tend to be all over the racetrack. A lot of times the racetrack ends up being the fastest around the top. It's a nice little place. I mean, it's a pretty racy deal. I've always enjoyed going to Marshalltown. Let's see here. Cameron. Yeah. Uh, Jared, use a shim on the spacer. A&A sells them in different thicknesses. Awesome. Well, thanks for putting that up there, Cameron. And that's another thing I wanted to kind of mention to you guys. Chad and I were kind of talking about it a little bit here before the show, but just looking at what we can do to make this show even better than what we have right now. If there's anything specific that you'd like to see, now we can't get super technical because we don't have the time, but let me know if there's anything that specifically pops into your mind that we can think of that can actually we can actually do. Kevin, what is the handling difference on a three-link car with the springs in front or behind the rear end? Um, I really can't say if you put them both in front and both in back that you'll notice a tremendous amount difference. The only thing is your spring base is further apart. When you split them and you actually run the and maybe you're a Wasota car that you got to have them both in the front and both in the back, but like a USRA car where you could split it and run the left one in front and the right one in behind, I definitely think that's going to have more traction. The problem with the right rear behind is sometimes it can actually create a tightness on corner entry. So, my favorite actually probably is the deal where if you could split them up, run the left rear in front and the right rear on top. That seems to be real consistent, works real well. Um, but as far as the difference in the front, I can't say that there's a tremendous amount of difference, you know, speed wise. Because if you're running a three-link car, now if you have a pull bar, then there would be a little bit of difference. But where the springs in front would probably have, in my opinion, the left rear would have more traction if you've got a movable like a torque link or something like that. But if you've got a solid bar, I don't know if you'd really notice the difference. But that's my opinion. There's maybe somebody on here's tried them and have a suggestion. Michael, lacking right rear grip on the sport mod. The Panhard bar is currently near the center of the rear end. Would moving it towards the right rear add grip? Um, yeah, it's not actually going to add any forward grip. It's going to actually give you a little bit more side bite. The closer you move that pivot point on the rear end, each tire, you're going to have more side bite. However, I kind of think it actually sometimes makes the car too tight, which causes the car to break traction and then creates the problem that you're having where it's lacking grip. I still like to have it as close to, in between both tires as much as possible. Moving it down is definitely going to give you a little bit more side bite, which in turn can create more grip because, the car gets stuck sooner. What's your opinion, Chad?
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Okay. Tate, does a 100-pound spring preloaded left rear call for a more aggressive left rear shock on the sport mod as well as more tie down on the right front? I actually believe that to be the case. However, I still think the left rear shock has a lot to do with the driver. Because if we get real aggressive with that left rear shock, the guys that struggle with trail braking, they tend to need a more aggressive shock because that's the only way we can keep the car up and keep the steering. The tie down right front, I mean, I've got a couple drivers out there that have minimal tie down in the right front on a sport mod, and they're pretty fast. It's another deal where I kind of think it's driver preference. The more tie down you put on the right front, it helps the car steer better through the corner, but I think it can rob a little traction off the corner. So I'm a little cautious, um, because with the sport mod or our three-link car, we only have one left rear link to try to, to help us get up off the corner, and it does a good job. It's just I would be cautious of putting too much tie down in that right front. If you need that to make the car stick, in my opinion, you need to work on the front of the car. Josh, for Chad, I had the end of a Wehrs jack bolt shear off, resulting in my spring cup coming off of the spring while running in a transfer spot at Batesville. It only had 6 nights on it. Is there any sort of warranty that I can contact you about? I still support your company and would like to continue to use your products. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely take a picture of that screw jack and that tip and send it in to us. Most of the time, the force is going up through that screw jack. So I don't know if the car, if it was kind of made where the force isn't quite lined up. The only way it would shear that pin off is if it was a rough track situation. You coil bound the spring, had a side load on it, and sheared that pin off, which, we haven't ever seen that hardly ever. I mean, we've only broke a handful of screw jacks in a long time. So, but definitely like to take a picture of it, send it to us so I can see, where it sheared and what happened, and maybe we'll send you one.
Well, and they did have a relatively good sized hole getting into between 1 and 2 down there at Batesville. And I know some of the guys were hitting it and it was really upsetting the car. So that, I don't know if that's what happened to Josh or not, but.
Yeah, the old guy Taylor was kind of complaining about it.
Oh. Jared, problem is the spring inner diameter is Duffy don't need to be different thickness. That's the point of being a thread adjuster.
I don't know why his autocorrect keeps putting Duffy in there.
I don't either.
These smartphones autocorrecting some of these words.
Yeah, they'll do a great job, man.
Yeah, that's why I said we'd make an OD grab. Obviously that's why we've trended towards on the spring cups. The OD grab, is nominal on the 5.5 and the 5-inch springs. That's why we did that, to keep them lined up better. So if you're making an ID adapter for those springs and you go from a 1200 to an 800 and it's built for the 800, it'll never fit in the 1200 because they changed the wire diameter and the ID shrinks. So that's you can still measure it. We still have some stuff here we could potentially help you out with, and I don't think anybody makes an OD grab one. So, but we're willing to help if you want us to take a look at it.
Yeah, Jared said, yeah, he was correcting my comment from when I called in to talk to you guys. They were able to help me get set up for the car to handle the same from having 1-inch different length uppers. Awesome. BJ, UMP A-Mod, do you ever experiment moving the pull bar side to side on the chassis and rear end? Any insight? Love the show. BJ, I used to do that a lot. When we had open motors like what you guys have in the UMP stuff, we definitely used to move that around. If you move it to the right, it's going to stick the right rear a little harder. You're going to get a little better side bite getting in. I think it rolls through the middle of the corner a little bit better. Not as great off. If you move it to the left, I think it takes side bite out of the car, but it definitely can help traction the car up coming up off the corner. So we kind of just actually end up in the center. When we first got the crate motor in the IMCA A mod, we definitely were 1 inch to the right, because of course at that point in time, we had to unhook those cars because we lost all of our motor. But now, through a lot of Chad's technology and some of the other stuff that we can do now, or we're doing nowadays, it's pretty much dead center. Ben, for Chad, the measuring stick for the load stick that goes over the shock bolt to measure the center to center, do you have a name for it or a part number?
Well, it only comes with the 414D dual stick, so you can't really have a standard stick and adapt it to it. And we don't make just the potentiometer version to go with the standard stick. So your best option there would be to sell your used standard stick to somebody around you and take that money and invest it in a dual stick.
Jamie, Bob, what are your thoughts on using the shock swivel on the rear end of a stock car on the bottom? My B-mod always bound up with the shock unit until I switched to the swivels. I'd actually have to talk to my stock car guys to see if there's a reason why we don't do that. I've always run a swivel on our modifieds and our B mods. Sorry, Jamie. I wished I had a better answer for you, but I'll have to talk to my guys tomorrow to find out what the actual deal is. I think it's just because it's just a welded bracket on there, but yeah, I have no idea. What's the benefit of running front calipers in the front of a spindle? Cool the calipers down.
Shock clearance, that's the only reason they're on the front.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no effect on performance whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know about the cooling down thing. I question how much air they would get.
The myth has always been that if they're on the front, it pulls the car down. But
Yeah,
they pull the car down on the front, then the back, it should pick the car up.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Joseph, if I called tomorrow and asked about a GRT by CRC, would you be able to tell me anything on it? Looking for tubing used in year, have the chassis number. I don't know. I mean, you'd be better off, calling Corey there at CRC. GRT can sometimes be a little difficult to get a hold of. They have all the records. Maybe you should email us a serial number, and maybe we can get a hold of GRT and find out information for you. Or like I said, I mean, your best bet would be call Corey. John, B-mod cars, pretty good. What can I expect adding a half-inch spacer to the left rear? You can expect the car to be maybe just a skosh freer getting into the corner, but once you're back on the throttle, the car will be a little tighter. It's kind of that adage, if the right rear tire is outside the right front, the car is going to be really loose because it's the pushing tire is pushing the steer tire, and that's going to tell you that it really wants to turn to the left. If you get your left rear tire outside of the left front tire, it's the opposite. The car will actually be a little bit tighter coming off the corner when you're on the throttle, and it will make the car try to, it thinks it should be turned more to the right. And so I always run, in fact, we actually run an inch spacer a lot of times on our left rear, and anymore, I don't know if we ever take that thing off. We play a lot with the right rear. We play a lot with an inch or a half inch right rear because, man, that makes a ton of difference on side bite and making the car a little bit tighter. I like wheel spacers. I wish they were legal in all classes. It's a $20 item that can make a world of difference in your race car for pretty cheap. Cameron, Jared, I meant like widths and thickness, LOL, but you can tack it or leave it loose. Haven't had a problem that way. Awesome, Cameron. Upala, 2019 GRT A-Mod. Car's fast when the racetrack has moisture, but seems to be numb to changes when it slicks off. Any ideas? A lot could be I'm not sure what your actual pull bar is that you got in the car. Um, I know we've played a lot with, if it's got the standard length lowers on it, we've actually run an inch longer left lower uh, uh, than what the standard GRT would have. That seems to help. Um, it seems to make the car a little bit tighter getting in. Um, that's, that and working with springs, but the pull bar is huge. It depends on what you have for a pull bar in there, because if you have a spring bar works awesome when there's traction or if you have a spoiler. If you, or if you're on a bigger racetrack. If you're on a stop and go really slick racetrack, a biscuit bar is probably going to give you more quicker traction sooner. The spring bar can kind of delay that a little bit, which on a slick racetrack, sometimes that's a good idea, but I almost think the spring bar makes the car, depending on the racetrack size, I think it can make the car a little lazy, right, especially on the start of a race, or right up off the corner a little bit. Um, Jared, Cameron Butler, I thought of making something like that, but if Chad can make a new ring, then I could make it where it could run the bearing as well.
Yeah, that's the other benefit of the OD is you could put the bearing in there, the Torrington bearing for sure.
Yes. Cameron, I was wondering if you used a heavy left rear spring, 300 to 350, in an outlaw hobby stock car, and the theory behind using such a large spring. Um, that's not necessarily been the trend of using a super heavy left rear spring. I know that's something that people used to do, and then they would put a lot of left rear bite in the car. Um, I, I myself, I would probably shy away from that. I think a softer spring can, with preload in it, can get you more action, more response. And even if it's a hobby car, once you get angle in that trailing arm, that's kind of where your traction's coming from. So that's kind of my opinion. What's your thoughts, Chad?
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with hobbies, but that seems way too stiff.
Yeah, and I don't know about the outlaw hobby stock, but that's way stiffer than what I know our guys run. Tate said, "Thanks, I appreciate it." Sean, don't change a good thing. I think the show is cut, dry, simple, and to the point. Maybe throw in a raffle or a giveaway between the two of you. Pick someone to win a shirt or a care package every few shows. Maybe have a guest appearance every few shows. As far as the show goes, we all like it. Well, thanks, Sean. I appreciate that comment. That's, like I said, that's kind of, I'm always, and I have this problem with my kids because I don't always show the appreciation for all the hard work, and the same with my employees, all the hard work they're doing, because I'm always looking at how we can do it better. And so over the last few years, I've really had to work on that. You're doing a great job, and then come back a day later and say, "No, is there anything we could do to be better?" So that's just my nature. Is um, AJ would like to take turns out of the right rear spring when the racetrack starts to slick off. From what I understand, right rear load creates side bite. So I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that we would lose side bite or not because the car is getting on the right rear more? Um, Anytime you take turns off that right rear, you're going to lose some side bite. Now, when you're talking about taking some turns out, you're not talking about taking a whole bunch of turns out. I would never do anything more than 3 or 4 at the most. 2 is probably more realistic. With 2 turns, you're not really you're changing how the car loads, but I don't think it would change it enough to affect the side bite because you're not moving the tire in or out. You're just lowering, you're lowering that corner of the car, and I just don't think that that type of adjustment would hurt the side bite. I think it would just help forward traction, in my opinion. What do you think, Chad?
Well, it affects the ride heights too, so it affects the angles of the 4-link rods so much also. That's, you're kind of doing 2 things at once there. So I'm not a big fan of taking all the load out of the right rear. Again, it just makes attitude. It doesn't make traction. So I'd rather see you do it a different way, whether you move a wheel spacer or you change the actual 4-link rods instead of adjusting the load. I'd rather have the 4-link rods do what you want to get traction off the corner than take all the load out of the spring, change the ride height, and manipulate the attitude of the car. You're letting the right rear down, so you're taking the bar angle out of the car, you're putting the spoiler down, taking the arrow away. I'm not a big fan of just taking rounds out.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, very good point. Jared, be either I don't know how Duffy is the same as different, LOL.
Duffy and different. I had one today. I don't know what the heck I typed, but it changed it. I don't remember what it was, but I was really upset about it.
Jared, IG or OD, whichever is better, Chad. I will get measurements and pictures for you. Awesome. Ryan wants to know, should we be concerned about what the right rear indexing is at dynamic or just stick to with the ride height numbers? That's a great question for you, Chad.
Gosh, my engineer was here today, and we went over index and index and index, and he's telling me that he's not sure if it matters, but I still believe it matters, but it depends on that location and how it transitions through the corner, I think. But then I have had guys that have changed index and said I couldn't feel a difference. So man, I'm not sure. I just had a guy tell me he was like unindexed 15 degrees, and normally we start 3 degrees into the spring, and I haven't got the results back from the test, but I think it had to be better with more index into it. But we're learning a lot about the 4-bar. We've been doing a lot of data acquisition testing and that kind of stuff, and we're trying to figure out how to go faster and win races all the time, right? So he brought me a whole wealth of knowledge today, and we're just trying to figure out how to use it. But we did talk indexing, so for now I would stick standard with the right rear basically flat 0 to 2 into the spring, and left rear we usually start into the spring 2 to 5 degrees.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I would agree with that. Jared, even my leaf spring car likes a good bit of compression. Think help that corner stay up, help keep the little bit of steer in it, have to say. Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. Joseph says, I've tried calling Corey and GRT both and emailing, no luck. Well, email me tomorrow. And my email address is harrisclash, all one word, at gmail.com. And let me give it a try, see if I can possibly find out anything. Now, I'm not promising you, because if you've tried those guys and it hasn't worked, but I'll see what I can do. Some days I have a little pull, some days not so much anymore. Jared, me either. Joseph, I will call you tomorrow. Barrett, Chad, on your adjustable rear deck brace, do you sell just the adjusters?
Almost forgot about it. I brought the new product with.
Yeah, I seen the pictures today.
Yeah. So Nick Hoffman wanted to make a neater brace for the T-bar, so we made these clamps, which accepts the 3/8 Heims. We've made them for 1/4 inch Heims and 5/16 Heims. Now we got them for the 3/8. So we'll have this, and we got them already ready to go. 1 1/4 inch, 1.5 inch, 1 3/4. And then the other end is just an adapter that takes a 3/8 bolt, so you can put it through, a 1 inch tube, or I mean, you could brace these, use these anywhere on your front T-bar on your dash, your rear T-bar, wherever you wanted to do it. The adjuster part is just simply a shifter rod. So it's a shifter rod with a Heim kit. That's our 20-inch standard tube. So yes, we do sell just the tubes and the Heim separate. We're selling this thing all individual pieces or as a kit. So definitely excited about that one. Nick has been a great customer, great asset to the company. He's got all kinds of cool ideas, and we like cool stuff. So.
Well, I seen that post today, and I thought that deal looked pretty cool. Let's see. Les, your opinion on left side percentage, how much is too much on an A-mod car? Well, everybody has an opinion on that left side percentage. I'll tell you what it does. High left side percentage can make the car a little free getting into the corner, a little skatey maybe in the middle, but if you can get all that navigated, it will give you more traction off the corner. A high left side car will have more traction off the corner. The downside is corner entry and mid corner can be sometimes, just all depends, if you can get the roll and everything. And sometimes when to get the roll, you have to put more pan bar angle in it. And so I'm not convinced that it doesn't kind of sometimes bind the car up maybe a little bit more. And when I'm talking about, I would never ever go over 56% left side weight on a dirt car. Normally we recommend 54. That seems to be a kind of a neutral where it still gives you a pretty good side bite. The car gets over in the right front pretty good. For most overall, I think it's pretty good. But I haven't talked to some of the other modified builders what they're doing nowadays. I know some of them look like they don't. They're right close to what we are at that 54%. But I know some guys that really believe in that left side weight. And like I said, if you can get the thing to navigate in and through the middle, it will give you more traction off the corner. Joseph says he'll email you tomorrow. Thanks, Bob. Even if I just get a response from you, saving you got the email would be more than I've heard from anybody else. No problem. I will take care of it, Joseph. I'm not promising if I'm going to find out information, and sometimes it's not always quick. Chris, Nick and David Ruderman have both been great champions on Chad's business and what his products are. Great races, both of them. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they've been great assets to have on our team and great friends, and just an awesome relationship with both of them.
Yeah, I don't know Nick very well, but I know David pretty good. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Sean, I bought 3 of the 40-inch right side tubes for the T-bar in a hurry, thinking 40 was just part of the part number. Guess I'll have plenty for a while. Yeah.
That's basically a 12-foot stick.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to agree with that. Jeffrey, left above 54%, raised left side 1/2 inch. Helps with that first 2 segments of the corner. Yeah, good point, Jeffrey. I mean, that would do that. I never thought about that, but you're correct. We used to do that all the time. Dry slick racetrack, we'd raise the left side of the car up, and we just haven't been doing that lately. I don't know why we're not doing that. Good point, Jeffrey. Thanks a lot for that. Jared, again, thanks both of you for what you do. Well, we appreciate it, Jared. We always enjoy it. We enjoy the show. We have a good time. Get to talk to all you guys, and sometimes when we're at the racetrack, it's awesome that you guys come up and tell us you like the show, or well, I don't care if you tell us you don't like the show, but I like the idea that you come up and say hi. So that's pretty cool. Um, so definitely. Well, once again, next show will be November 4th. Don't forget about the chassis schools coming up in January, February, and March. They're all on the BHE website or the Racetech Info website. So get signed up for them. Surprisingly, we actually had quite a few people already sign up for the classes. So that's exciting. Chad will be there with us for the 4-link school. Billy will probably be there for the 2-link school or the 3-link school. And we'll have Paul Berger and Mike
Nichols.
And of course Troy Jarovich, who works for me. Those guys I know for sure on the stock car school, and we're still working on another one. I'm not sure how that's going. I need to check into that, but so we're getting that all rounded up, and everything's good to go. So anyway, since it sounds like we're going to have a good weekend again this next weekend, everybody enjoy the weekend, and don't forget it's time to start thinking about next year already. Well, have a good weekend. Oh, wait a minute. Russell says, waiting to hear if you will be in PA. Russell, we will be back in PA again this year. Joel won't let us actually get out of that deal. And it's actually, I mean, other than the traveling part of it, I have a blast out there. I mean, last year, I actually thought that PA class was the best class that I did personally. I thought it was awesome. That getting up at 3 a.m. to go to the airport, not really. Of course, I'm not really a big fan of getting up super early on any day. Chris, do you think it's possible for a swing arm setup to make a comeback one day? You know, a swing arm car drives as great as a leaf spring car. Probably the nicest driving car that you'll ever drive. Problem is to get traction out of them. They just don't. We tried all kinds of things with that thing. If the racetrack's got a little bit of traction, they're killer. That swing arm setup is killer. But I just don't. I don't see it happening. I think there's so much other stuff now that's kind of laid that by the wayside. All right. Well, you guys have a good night and a good rest of your week. You too, Chad, and we will talk to you all later.
Thanks, everybody.